1 minute to air. The live stream has started.
Good evening, Bull City, Durham, North Carolina. Welcome to everybody here live in Chambers and City Hall Plaza with us on this, and virtually as well, on this Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022 at 6 p.m. We're glad to see our audience is filled tonight with folk who will be speaking at this very special occasion. We are now at the point in our interview process where we will be hearing from the public about each of our 4 finalists. And I just say welcome to you all. We look forward to your comments, and I am going to turn this meeting over to the co-chair of our legislative committee to preside over this meeting tonight, Councilwoman Johnson. It's yours now, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to preside tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being here. So we are here tonight to hear from members of the community in support of the 4 finalists for our city council appointment. And we're going to be hearing from folks, from people supporters in alphabetical order by last name of the candidate. So we'll start with Nate Baker, then move on to Schnequa Nicole Diggs, followed by Dr. Holsey-Hyman, and then Henry McKoy Jr. There will be some folks appearing virtually and some who are here in person, of course. So if you are here in person, feel free to use the podium over to my right, your left. And if you're here virtually, the clerk will make you available, will activate your microphone when it's your turn to speak. Oh, okay, yeah, I will do that, thank you. We decided that each candidate would have 30 minutes to divide up as they chose amongst their supporters. So if y'all can figure that out as you go, or if you have 10 people, you can each speak for 3 minutes, however you want to make that work. And I've been reminded that we have not yet called the roll. So Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Mayor O'Neill.
I am present.
Mayor Pro Tem Middleton.
Here.
Councilmember Caballero.
Here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other procedural things that we need to do before we head to our speakers? Great. So I'd like to first invite the speakers who are here to speak in support of Nate Baker. And our first speaker is Celeste Ritchie, who will be appearing virtually.
Hey folks, I don't know if you can hear me, but it looks like
you.
I can't take my video off or can't put my video on for some reason. But anyway, I'm here. I'm really excited to be here to speak for my very strong support of Nate Baker as a candidate for Durham City Council. I live in the Bragtown neighborhood, and I first made Durham my home back in 2004. So it excites me to have a candidate that I can really get behind, like many of you. Really pleased to have such a strong city council. I know that you all probably know a lot of Nate's professional expertise, deep roots and love for Durham, and also a passion for empowering communities. So I do believe those reasons would make him an excellent addition to the council. In terms of his professional life work around urban planning, I think that Nate would be able to bring really practical and tangible solutions to the development challenges that are facing Durham right now. But y'all have seen his resume, you know about that side of things. So I want to share an example of how Nate has impacted me in the community that I'm a part of. So many of you know Bragtown's been under really intense pressure from developers, and a little over 2 years ago, a bunch of us in the community were kind of thrust into a very steep learning curve around development and affordable housing when we caught wind of this huge development that was proposing to clear cut nearly 200 acres of land, build nearly 800 units of housing, and none of those units would be affordable to folks in Bragtown. And Nate was incredibly generous with his time and his expertise. He helped us to understand where in the process our voices could be heard, and what a better outcome for Bragtown might look like. I also saw Nate, as part of his role on the Planning Commission, help to hold developers accountable and ensure that community voices and interests weren't lost amid this kind of manufactured urgency of a developer's timeline. And you know, our group got compassion and support from so many staff and elected leaders across Durham. But I would say Nate provided a really unique perspective as someone who's helped implement these types of solutions that Bragtown really needed, and I think that all of Durham needed. And when you fast forward to today, the developers that, you know, many of them are kind of reaching out proactively to folks in the community to be part of the planning phase. That same development has kind of come back to the table with community input, proposing to add just under 200 units of affordable housing. And I don't think we would have been able to achieve these things without the support of Nate. So really appreciate that. And I think that the timing, you know, the choices that we're making today are really going to impact Durham for generations to come. We can't undo the development that's happening at such a quick pace. So I feel like now is the time for Nate's leadership to join our already amazing council so that Durham can grow in equitable ways and kind of live with the values that we all know are so important and make us so proud to call Durham home. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker will be Constance Wright, who will also be appearing virtually.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Constance Wright, and I am a born and raised citizen of Durham. I've lived in Bragtown for 35 years, and I endorse Nate Baker. I endorse him because when I met Nate, like Celeste said, we were going through challenges out here in Bragtown as far as the developers are concerned. And they wanted to put all these houses out here, but they didn't want to put affordable housing for the residents of our community. You know, so what we did, we reached out to the Planning Commission. Several of the people on the Planning Commission answered our call, but Nate, like Celeste said, was there for us. He came to many meetings. He even scheduled meetings with us so that he could give us insight on how to deal with the developers. And because of his expertise, his experience with the urban planning and everything, we were actually able to get a no vote against the developers. The developers were turned down as far as developing the community until we had a chance to give our input about what we wanted. He understands the policies of Durham. He understands the plight of the underserved communities also. He listens well. He believes in community engagement. He really listened to everything that we were saying as far as what we wanted and what we needed out here in Bragtown, which helped us get the win. And it also, I think, influenced the city council to say no to the developers also, so that they could come back to the drawing board with a better solution when it comes to housing for the residents out here so that a lot of them could stay in their homes and everything. He wants to empower the community residents to decide what is best for our community. You know, not the people downtown, no offense to anybody, but not the people downtown, but the people who know our community, which is us. And he wants to empower us and give us the opportunity to tell you what we need, not you tell us what we want. So, and I believe he'll think outside the box as far as this crime that's going on, the shootings and all of that. I think he will think outside the box and come up with a viable solution as to how to solve the violence problem. So I'm asking you to please choose Nate to be the at-large candidate for your city council. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker will be Benita Green, who is here in the chamber with us.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Mark Anthony Middleton, and members of the council. My name is Benita Green. I'm community leader in Merrickmore Community, and I'm here this evening in support of Nate Baker to fill the at-large seat on the city council. The reason why I feel that Nate is the best candidate right now is because of the level of experience he has in the area of land management and zoning. This is a time that those skill sets are really greatly needed on the council. Nate also has a vast wealth of experience in the environmental community. And I think that that would be a great asset to this very, very diverse board that we have today. I'm a native of Durham, and I'm very proud of this city and the progressions that it's taking. I think Nate will be the person that is needed to take us to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Maya Jackson, who's also here in person.
Hi, good evening, Council. I am here to speak on behalf of Nate Baker. Nate and I met several years ago when he had the insight to see the housing and development challenges that we were dealing with here in Durham. And a quirky bunch of us all got together to see how these issues were going to impact community, not just our own unique neighborhoods, but all of Durham. And because of that, Nate has always shown up. He has always been insightful. He's been extremely intentional with helping us understand how planning and zoning works. I had no idea how much goes into it, but now that I do, it really helps me in the work that I do within community to explain to my families why we're having housing challenges, how to prepare if they're dealing with rent hikes, as well as evictions, as well as just when talking about the sustainability factor. A lot of the communities in which we serve, their neighborhoods were designed inequitably for a reason. And so when you're thinking about children who are dealing with asthma, chronic health issues, a lot of it is environmental based off of how these homes and these neighborhoods were designed. And so because of that, Nate has been very helpful for me in my work in making sure that we can advocate what environmental justices look like on people of color and how we can reimagine what a green city looks like, an equitable city looks like, but for people who are impacted the most by it. A lot of times when it comes to planning, we don't think about the people who can't get on a bus because they have difficulties with their strollers or the fact that they have multiple children. The way that our city is designed right now makes it very impossible for folks who have accessibility issues. And someone like Nate being on the council who has the temperament to create balance, but also someone that really centers the lived experience of people around him is what the council needs and what the city needs. So I'm just honored to speak on his behalf, and I think he could be a great fit for the city council.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker will be Austin Amendolia.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and members of the City Council. My name is Austin Amendolia. I'm a renter near Woodcroft, and I'm the chair of the Durham Planning Commission. I attended my first Planning Commission meeting as a resident in 2019, a year before I was appointed. And Nate was already on the commission at that time, and largely because of his voice, I immediately recognized the importance and power of the work of the Planning Commission. He has significantly shaped the way the Planning Commission approaches its work. I've now had the pleasure of working alongside him for the past 2 years and watched him continuously advocate for safe, inclusive, sustainable, and connected communities. These values, along with values of compassion and equity, are just the beginning of Nate will be a great council member. Not only do Nate's values align with what Durham needs, but his expertise positions him to align those values with action. Nate is an expert in land use planning, and that may sound like just one aspect of the job at first glance, but Nate recognizes how land use, zoning, and planning determine so many of the issues this council seeks to address. He understands that your proximity to environmental pollution based on racist zoning decision impacts your physical, mental, and economic well-being. He recognizes the impact developing a connected neighborhood has on a household's ability to access high-quality jobs, and he understands that planning touches every aspect of our lives, from where a school is located to the presence of food deserts in our city. And Nate already has many victories in his toolbox. He has successfully pushed for more street trees, increasing the environmental sustainability and health of our city. He's advocated for better sidewalks, pushing for updates to the UDO to ensure every new development has safe and connected sidewalks. And he got the Planning Commission to do something they've never done before by proactively seeking updates to the UDO. And he isn't finished. Durham is experiencing a period of rapid growth that puts at risk the environmental safety and economic prosperity of Durham residents if not addressed the right way. Nate has the experience to address these growth pressures and would round out the expertise of this council. Nate is committed to the work of inclusive community engagement, equity, and sustainable development. He approaches his work with compassion and empathy, and that is why I am supporting Nate Baker to be our next council member. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ricky White.
Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Ricky White. I'm the Executive Director of Ellerby Creek Watershed Association, and I'm here today to speak on behalf of Nate Baker. I'll be honest, I don't know Nate personally. I'm pandemic and other things, but I have gotten to know him through the Planning Commission and the work that he's done there. And that's because we go in front of the Planning Commission a lot as an environmental organization. I'm not going to speak on behalf of ACWA, but I am going to speak personally about my experiences with Nate and what I understand to be true about why he is a uniquely qualified person to be on the council. From what I've seen, he understands the Unified Development Ordinance and the Comprehensive Plan extremely well. But in addition to that, he has this breadth of experience based on his work in other communities and understands how to look at what those other communities that he's worked in through his urban planning work might tell us about unique and interesting ways that we can tackle this existential issue we have of development, trying to figure out affordable housing in the face of these intense development pressures that we have. And in general, just bringing that level of knowledge that he has to the council. I don't expect that he's always going to agree with everyone else on the council, but I think that the really valuable part is that he asks really good questions, and he understands how to ask the questions that will give you guys a lot more insight into what the developers are thinking and doing and want to do, and maybe give you some leverage when we need to ask for more affordable units or we need to ask for more environmental protection. So because of that, I'm asking y'all to support Nate, and I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Brandon Williams, who's going to be joining us virtually.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Williams. I am a resident in the Walltown neighborhood, And I got to know Nate Baker through our neighborhoods organizing around the redevelopment of Northgate Mall. And Nate was very supportive and often instrumental in providing us insight along the journey as we engaged with developers there. And I think the thing that stands out to me from our interactions and Nate's approach to planning and development work and community engagement is a way he can help expand imagination for what's possible at a site. And also his ability to understand the significance of particular sites to whether it be kind of particular communities like Northgate Mall is to Walltown and the surrounding neighborhoods, or just in the context of the larger city of Durham as a whole. So understanding the value of kind of how we steward the land that we have, and what it means to help facilitate the kind of life and livelihood and prosperity that we want to have in our city. And so my thought in terms of Nate being, would be a great leader at any point in time, I think in the city of Durham and to be on the council, but for this time in particular, I think it is of utmost urgency that we add and contribute the kind of experiences and expertise that Nate brings to the table at our highest level of governance in the city. As reports continue to come forward around kind of the increasing corporate landlordship of homes in the area, we need to be really creative in not just being able to resist developers, but thinking about how to attract the kind of developers that can help us achieve the goals that we have for our city. And I think that's been really valuable for us as we've thought about our work here in Walltown. And I hope that Nate has the opportunity to bring that perspective to the city council and to the broader community and city of Durham. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker will be Pablo Friedman, who's here in the audience.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, Chair Johnson, rest of the City Council, members in the audience, the millions of viewers at home. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Nate Baker, somebody, and I'm speaking tonight in a personal capacity and as somebody who pays premium taxes in Durham and expects premium services and believes in the public good. I met Nate not because I'm involved in city planning, I'm on the planning commission, or I'm part of a neighborhood. I met him just as a good friend, somebody who walks these streets just as so many of you walk these streets day in and day out. And I've learned so much from him. And I think that's the perspective that I think is so valuable. Nate comes from a background in city planning, right? He's on the planning commission. He's handled zoning, which I think arguably is one of the most powerful functions that the city council has. And I think he can bring a really important perspective to this council as we're talking about affordable housing, we're talking around zoning and developers. I mean, you've heard tonight from the constellation of folks that he's brought out here from different walks of life. Some of us don't always politically agree with one another. Let's be frank here, right? And I think that's healthy. What did the Indy write in the last election cycle? Diversity of thought and opinion is good, right? And Nate brings that. I'll be honest, I don't always agree with Nate, and that's okay. That's good because the public interest is advanced. And I know on some issues, he is zero-mindedly focused. Mayor O'Neill, you've talked about where did the $100+ million on light rail go? Guess what? Nate's asking himself that same question. Does it make sense to invest here? Do, bus rapid transit? He's asking himself those same questions. We were nerding out the other day about that. Councilmember Freeman, Councilmember Caballero, I know health equity, vaccinations, language access are critically important to you. Guess what? Nate also has those same values. These aren't mutually exclusive things. And that's why I'm here tonight, because in Spanish, where I'm from originally, there's a saying, dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Tell me who you're with, and I'll tell you who you are. And Nate deserves that seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Daksh Arora, who's also in person.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak for you, Nate. I'm Daksh. I am a climate organizer working in a movement in Durham. I'm also an engineer. And I'm here to kind of like talk about what we're fighting for. That's the Green New Deal for Durham. And that's why I'm kind of here. Nate Baker is one of our biggest ally to fight for Green New Deal. If people don't know what Green New Deal is, it's just talking about having this economy, a clean city for Durham, but also protecting our communities of color, the workers, and that's just transition. And Nate is more than an ally. He has worked with our movement, but also he has a website for Green New Deal for Durham. His platform talks about how much he's passionate about building this clean city and also focus on equity and justice for communities. And we all know young people are kind of like not involved in politics, and especially local politics. And if I'm here right now as a young folks, I'm sure like Nate is doing something right. He's energizing the young people to get involved in politics, also getting here and talk on his behalf. Nate also believes in that local politics. He believes in that grassroots building movement and having different communities and different stakeholders come and talk for a project. And he loves to bring those and have this input for any projects he's worked on. And other than that, he also knows climate change is an intersectional issue. We have to bring everyone on board. We have to fight for climate justice. We have to fight for economic justice. And also we need to have good transportation. A lot of good companies are going to come here, but even though they're going to bring jobs here, there's going to be this transportation injustice. We need someone who understands that, work on our transportation, have that mobility justice so that people can get to these good jobs. And also, big companies come here, housing prices go up. We don't want to be the next Denver. We want affordable housing. And Nate knows that. Nate understands all of this intersectional issues. He has the experiences. People have already talked about it. He's the urban planning commissioner. And yeah, he's a good listener too. We have been on meetings together. He has listened to me talk for so long. I'm sure he's going to listen to communities, and I'm really happy to be speaking on his behalf today.
Thank you. Our 10th and final speaker is Girja Mahajan, who is also here in the audience.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and esteemed members of the council. My name is Girja Mahajan, and I have been living in Durham since June 2010. It's a dynamic time to be a Durham resident. I have seen firsthand the positive impact of investment in revitalization efforts. There is some more housing, more business corridors across the city, more trails, parks, and cultural events. This type of positive growth results in more new neighbors, more job opportunities, more sales and property tax revenue, and growing city pride. But I've also seen how well-intended efforts can result in economic, residential, and identity loss for some of our most vulnerable residents rather than opportunity for all. Because of the rapid growth we are experiencing in this community, decisions made now will affect us for many years. The challenges we face in Durham are complex and will only become infinitely more complex. I want a leader who has demonstrated their leadership and service to date, but also understands how to navigate our dynamic local political scene for coalition building progress, and not just to make political points or advance personal projects. I want a leader who will push the Durham city government to bring people together to create shared plans for our community to grow with good governance practices and excellent delivery of city services. Nate Baker is that leader. The Durham community often hears Nate's voice in planning commission meetings, community gatherings, local op-eds, and of course, when he ran for office in spring 2020. Nate knows that it is crucial for the Durham city government to deliver the leadership and services that all its residents rely on daily. Whether that's helping local residents understand how to advocate to city government for more traffic safety measures, green spaces, or inclusive planning. Nate has a track record of building bridges across diverse groups with varying interests to deliver meaningful results. For the last 12 years, I have been involved in various local civic groups, including my neighborhood association, my child's public school PTA board, the City Human Relations Commission for 5 years, and now most recently appointed as a member of the City Recreation Advisory Commission. In that time, I have met and interacted with many folks in Durham, some who have similar life experiences and viewpoints, but many who do not. But our ideas and our collective civic engagement efforts are better as a result of diverse perspectives in our discussion. As you have heard time and time this evening, Nate is an experienced and dedicated community member, and more importantly, has the insights and ideas to make fair and progressive decisions as a city council member. With proud enthusiasm, I support Nate Baker as our next at-large Durham City Council member. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That concludes the speakers in support of Nate Baker. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We will next hear from folks who are here to support Schnequa Nicole Diggs. And our first speaker is Rebecca Winders, who is here in person. Sorry, Becky Winders is next. You can come up to the podium. No problem.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's a pleasure to be here in person in City Hall for the first time since for over 2 years, and to see your actual faces, not on a screen. My name is Becky Winders, and I live at 4 Glenmore Drive. And it is my pleasure to speak for Nikki Diggs. And I first met Dr. Nicole when she enrolled in my urban issues class at NCCU about 12 or 15 years ago. And the class worked on a project in the Southside neighborhood during the planning years that preceded the redevelopment of that neighborhood. And she had a chance to meet Brother Ray Urquhart and to learn about the Southside Neighborhood Association and its efforts to organize residents to advocate for their community while conducting a windshield survey of the property-by-property housing conditions there. And at the time, she was a business student, just taking public administration as an elective. But as she told me later, that experience in Southside sparked an interest in her in public management as a way of applying the knowledge that she had gained of finance and marketing research to problem solving in the community. So she went on to graduate school, earned her doctorate in public administration, and taught first at Cal State East Bay, and then returned to NCCU in 2019. I can promise you that, given the opportunity, Dr. Nicole will do a great job for all the residents of Durham, and she will be a great member of your team. She is a smart, energetic, and focused. But I'm going to leave it to her department chair, Dr. Zafon Wilson, who is going to speak later, I think, to talk about her work at the quality and quantity of her work at NCCU. I think that what also will make her a great team member is that she is a friendly, empathetic, and fun person who can talk to any person and make them feel good and make them feel heard. And you may have experienced that in your interactions with her, possibly. But no matter how busy she is, she's always ready to listen or share a joke. Now, Dr. Nicole is so far not a long-term resident. She cannot know the city as well as current council members and some of the candidates for this position to do. However, there's something to be said for a fresh perspective. She does have recent lived experience from 3 other very widespread communities where she went to school and worked in her first professional job: Norfolk, Virginia, Boca Raton, Florida, and the Bay Area of California. She may bring best practices knowledge information from these areas and from her public administration research on affordable housing and community development topics. Moving from place to place with her military family no doubt contributed to her ability to relate to people of varied backgrounds and perhaps made her sensitive to the challenges of newcomers. We have a lot of those newcomers around here, and they need representation too. Though Dr. Nicole has lived here a relatively short time, she has jumped right in with characteristic enthusiasm, looking for ways to make a difference in the Durham community, especially with regard to affordable housing and community development. She's served on the Participatory Budgeting Steering Committee and now sits on the Affordable Housing Implementation Committee. And she has also I think she's going to be around for a while because she has bought a house as soon as she got here, and just recently has become a Section 8 landlord, purchasing a rental house, and has intending to single-handedly preserve one more affordable house. So I think that you have a hard job, a hard choice to make here tonight, and really maybe you can't go wrong, but you will not be sorry if you choose Nicole Diggs, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Amija James, who's also here in person.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, members of the council. My name's Amija James, and I am here on behalf of Dr. Nicole Diggs in pursuit of the at-large vacancy for the council. As a former student of Dr. Diggs's, I had the honor of learning what civic engagement and public service truly mean under her tutelage in the Department of Public Administration at North Carolina Central University. I believe Dr. Diggs is an exemplary representative of Durham's constituency. Having spent so many years in Durham, she's seen how the many challenges have led to greater tensions for the marginalized communities. And I know that in the work that I do, that's the most important part that residents of this city would like to have of their members of the council. Her past and present civic leadership engagements have allowed her the opportunity to gain insight into what can move Durham forward in the right direction. Her priority focuses the availability of affordable housing, race and inclusion equity, and improving development and land use are 3 distinct areas that can help push Durham towards the sustainability, accountability, and the public transparency that the people are desperately hoping to have. Her passion for problem solving will be instrumental in ensuring that the needs and the concerns of Durham citizens will not only be heard, but will be the main focus of the work that needs to be done. While we all have demands in our lives, Dr. Diggs is someone who places importance on finding ways to help others reach the heights that they believe are attainable. That kind of dedication is what I envision from someone who would serve on the council. I believe that if Dr. Diggs is selected for this vacancy, that she will step up to the challenge, work to bridge the gap between decision makers and the public. Her knowledge, professional experience, and ultimately love for the city will be a driving force in working to repair the trust that people in the city have in their elected and appointed officials. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you very much, and apologies for mispronouncing your name. Our next speaker is Ashley Anderson, who is here. Great. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. I'm kind of used to seeing faces on the screen, so I'm a little nervous. This is a little different, but I will do my best. So my name is Ashley Anderson. I'm actually finishing up the Master's of Public Administration program at NCCU, so I am a former student now of Dr. Diggs. So I've had the pleasure of meeting her for the first time in spring of 2021 in her Urban Issues class, and boy, did we talk about the issues. Her teaching style was a little bit different than what I was used to and a lot of my classmates were used to, but I am extremely thankful for it. And you could really see the passion for the issues that she had, especially when it came to equitable community development and housing. Those are two of the issues that we always talked about. And she always made it clear of those passions and of those issues. And although, as it was mentioned before, Dr. Diggs is a recent transplant to Durham, she's always shown her passion for this amazing city. And now, as a professor in public administration, it's been a pleasure to have a professor that not only has done the research and has academic knowledge and background, but also has been doing the work in the community, as mentioned before, with participatory budgeting. Having someone that has had that experience with the community on that level has been really instrumental in my development as a student, and I'm sure my colleagues can agree with that. And something that Dr. Diggs has always instilled with us as public administrators, that we can't just talk the talk and just do the research and the academic part behind public administration. We also have to do the work. And Dr. Diggs has really instilled that in us, and I can see it in her. She's not just one that is do as I say, not as I do. She really is out here doing the work. And she shares those experiences with us, and that makes our academic experience so much more richer. But yeah, I think she'd be a great fit for this team. Like I said, she's already doing the work, and she'll continue to do the work, especially if she's honored to be a part of this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Clayton Davis, who's also appearing in person.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and members of the City Council. My name is Clayton Davis. I've had the privilege of having Dr. Diggs as a professor, and I have the honor to call her a mentor of mine. And now I have the privilege of supporting her publicly in her ambition to be City Councilwoman here in Durham. When I think of Dr. Diggs, I think of three things. She's an advocate, she's a leader, she's a problem solver. During my time in the public administration program, I've gotten to see her passion for public administration, community advocacy, and urban development. During that time, she was able to be a problem solver and explaining complex topics to everyday students who had some to little no background of the subject matter. And I believe she'll be able to bring that same knowledge and that way to engage people where they're at and bring that to the City Council and be a leader on the council as well as with citizens in the community. As an advocate, she always showed her passion in making sure that we were aware of the issues that faced the community and how we could get involved. I always left her class inspired. So much so, as also a law student, I was able to get involved in the civil litigation clinic and address the eviction issues as a student and serve my community that way. And that was due to her showing me the issues in a practical way and inspiring me every day that I was able to attend her class. As a problem solver, I've seen Dr. Diggs address many research issues throughout her time as a professor before she came here to Durham, and I hear about her research that she does here now. Throughout it all, she's been a leader, and I've seen her be able to serve as an advocate in those areas where she's been able to address and use her experience. Thank you for your time, and again, I'm very honored to be here and publicly endorse Dr. Diggs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Veronica Parks, who's also here with us.
Greetings, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and council members. My name is Veronica Parks, and I'm a registered nurse, and I met Nikki over 20 years. I'm now a small business owner. I'm present here today to express my support for Nikki. We met at North Carolina Central over 20 years ago, and today we live in neighboring communities. I consider her more than just a friend, but she's also a role model to me and my adult children. Her passion around issues like affordable housing, race equity, and inclusion has inspired me to take a more active role as a Durham resident. I've lived in Durham for over 20 years as well. She's vocal about issues that impact marginalized groups. She voices her concern in a way and in support of that encourages me to be more reflective of ways that I can have an impact. While I tend to shy away from issues that are in this city, Nicole quietly nudges and circles back and reminds me that I can engage and make a difference. I never considered that I could personally affect change in this city. However, I realize that we all have an important role to play. We both love Durham. As a result of her influence, I've researched and applied to participate on the City of Durham's Cultural Advisory Board in hopes of finding a place where my skills and talents can be of service. That's something I never would have considered had I not known her. She is intelligent, she's caring, and she is always advocating for members of the community whose voices go unheard. That's in professional circles, that's in personal conversations. She is always advocating. She is a problem solver, and without a doubt, one of the hardest working women I've had the pleasure to meet. So it's for this reason tonight that I'm here to show my support. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Will Hopkins, who's joining us virtually.
Everyone, good evening. My name is Will Hopkins, and I am here to endorse Ms. Diggs. I got to know Ms. Diggs probably a couple years ago. She came to me for training. I'm a small business owner, and I think that's one of the glaring characteristics of why you should endorse her. As one of the ladies said previously, she not only talks it, but she does walk it. For me, I feel like she could go anywhere and train at a bigger gym, a more well-known gym. But I am a small business owner, and 2 years later, she's still here with me. One of the similarities that she and I have, and I think that's vitally important, is that the military background. And she has had the opportunity to experience different relationships with people, experience different people, more importantly. And the direction that Durham is going right now, I absolutely think that's imperative, that not only should a candidate listen, but I also think that a candidate should seek to understand what everyone is trying to convey to her. And I think that's one of her strong suits. And having that background of being around different people, different cultures, I mean, that's pretty important, especially when as it pertains to relatability. And I think that's what people want. People want to feel like they can be related to, and she absolutely can relate to just about anyone she engages with. Her work ethic, from what I've seen the last couple years, has been absolutely wonderful. I've never heard her use the word can't. I've never heard her or seen her give up on anything that I've asked her to do. And based on what everyone else has said as well, I think that's just who she is. So while she may not have the experience of living in Durham like the other candidates, having the ability to relate and just be a people person is equally as important as just living in a city, because that doesn't just necessarily guarantee that you're for the people. But she absolutely is a people person. I absolutely believe that she is for the people, and she's for everyone. And that is why I endorse Ms. Diggs. Thank you much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Christopher Paul, who's joining us in person.
Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem, and excellent council members, it's great to see you. I'm Chris Paul. I'm a faculty member at North Carolina Central University and a colleague of 3 of the finalists. I know and work with all of them, and while you cannot go wrong with the great finalists that you've selected, I want to speak specifically to the unique strengths of Nicole Diggs. Nicole and I worked closely together since she joined the faculty in 2018. I can tell you she was thrilled to come back to Durham. From our first interactions, she said it was like coming back home. She has been committed to strengthening the department in which she was previously a student at NCCU. As you've heard from the students and alumni, committed Durham residents themselves, accomplished Durham residents themselves, She has recognized from the beginning the importance of NCCU and the MPA program being located in the city of Durham. Our MPA program is the state's second largest, and it's the largest of any HBCU, and engaging directly with our city is essential for both the students and the city. One of our best experiences together, Nicole and I, was working on the third-party evaluation of Durham's participatory budget, Cycle 1. We engaged with our MPA students and the whole group of people, the staff, the city leadership, and citizens to understand what was undertaken and what was accomplished. We did many focus groups, many surveys, some late nights of analysis and writing, and highlighted the novel forms of civic engagement and rethinking governance that's accomplished here by city staff, leadership, and citizens. Perhaps best of all was traveling together to Nashville to the International City County Management Association meeting to present our analyses of the successes and lessons learned here in Durham, and seeing what a unique and important city Durham is, how its successes are not only central for the residents here, but also models for cities across the state and beyond. Nicole understands this, is proud of it, and wants to ably help lead it. While Nicole is a public administration academic, she also has a practitioner's mind. Her research and interest in environmental justice, urban studies, public health, all draw upon that intuition and that learning. But her approaches to problems are very practical. She desires public participation and input and wants to bring in the insights from the broader field. Speaking from personal experience, I'm convinced she would be an excellent colleague for you as well, bringing insight, good humor, relationship building, and hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Zaphon Wilson, who will be joining us virtually.
Good evening. My name is Zaphon Wilson, and I'm the chair of the Department of Public Administration at North Carolina Central University. And I'm here to speak on behalf of my colleague, Nicole Diggs. I have enjoyed our experience together, working with Nicole in a lot of different varieties. She is an excellent scholar. She's a practitioner. She understands the dynamics of urban development, growth, inequalities. And you can see from the students who spoke on her behalf, the impact she has on young people. I can see Nicole going into our communities in Durham and having a major impact, not only because of her engaging personality, but also because of her talents and skill sets that are so sorely needed today. One of my colleagues, Dr. Becky Winders, also spoke very highly of her as a former student. And when we look at this journey that Nicole's taken, you can see that she has really engaged in every community she's lived in. She brings a fresh perspective that's needed in local government. That's where the rubber meets the road. And I think that she has a commitment, I know she has a commitment to doing what is best for the most people in a community that is in dire need of strong leadership, academic excellence, and integrity. And she carries all of those traits with her. I would vote for her in a heartbeat. I would support her to the very end of the conversation. So I would give you my strongest, most enthusiastic endorsement for Nicole Diggs. She is a treasure, and she is a valued member of this community. She's a valued member of her academic community and her academic family, and she would be an excellent choice as an at-large member of the City Council. Thank you very much for your time. Best wishes.
Thank you. Our last speaker will be Ashley Robbins, who's also joining us virtually.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Robbins. I'm a Durham resident and a North Carolina Central University student. I've had the pleasure of having Dr. Diggs in two of my curriculum classes thus far. which have been the most engaging classes that I have taken thus far in my graduate career. And I just want to echo the sentiments of those that have gone before me. As the last person, everyone pretty much says what you may have wanted to say already. But I do want to verbalize my support for Dr. Diggs for this at-large city council position. And I feel she would be an invaluable asset to you all's team. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That concludes our speakers for applicant Schnequa Nicole Diggs. Thank you so much for coming out tonight and being with us. And do folks want to take a 5-minute break? Okay, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll proceed with speakers for Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman. Thank you.
It's a busy time for the Durham Housing Authority as the groundwork is being laid for addressing significant issues that affect many of its residents. During a recent special City Council and DHA Board of Commissioners meeting, DHA CEO Anthony Scott addressed a range of important topics, including DHA's plans to address operating and maintenance challenges, redevelopment of existing public housing properties in central Durham, and efforts to assist DHA residents with rental arrears, find jobs, and pursue home ownership. The special meeting can be watched on our YouTube channel, and more information about how DHA fits into our affordable housing efforts can be found at foreverhomedurham.com.
But I know that you're exploring the possibility of actually starting something called social districts in downtown. Talk about that. Tell me what that is and what's the advantage.
So the social district program was something that was passed by the General Assembly late last year. It is a program that allows cities to designate areas with a specific boundary as social districts. And within those social districts, individuals can have open container of alcohol. So you basically can go into an establishment and sit down, have a beer or have some wine. And then if you want to leave that establishment, then you can put that in a to-go cup that is marketed as being of that social district and what the boundaries are, and then you can move throughout that district with an open container.
Did you know the City of Durham has interpretation and translation services available? The city adopted a language access plan to provide language services and help non-English speakers have access to city services and programs without a language barrier. Through the city's language access plan, residents have the right to request interpretation and translation services free of charge, receive translation of vital documents and emergency communications in Spanish, and submit complaints of language discrimination or on the failure to adequately provide services in accordance with the city's language access plan policy. For more information on the city's language access efforts, visit durhamnc.gov/language access. ¿Sabía que la ciudad de Durham cuenta con servicios de interpretación y traducción? La ciudad adoptó un plan de acceso al idioma para ofrecer servicios lingüísticos y ayudar a que las personas que no hablan inglés puedan tener acceso a los servicios y programas de la ciudad sin la barrera del idioma. Por medio del plan de acceso al idioma, los habitantes tienen derecho a solicitar sin costo alguno servicios de interpretación y traducción, recibir la traducción de documentos importantes y de comunicaciones de emergencia en español, presentar una denuncia de discriminación por motivos de idioma o por no recibir servicios de manera adecuada de acuerdo con la política del plan de acceso al idioma de la ciudad. Para recibir más información sobre la labor de la ciudad relacionada con el acceso al idioma, visita durhamnc.gov/acceso.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to wait just another minute for the mayor to return to the dais, and then we'll get started. Thanks, everyone, for coming out tonight. So we're going to proceed with our public comments for our city council appointment applicants. We're next going to hear from supporters of Monique Holsey-Hyman, and we will start with Allison Murrow.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Allison Murrow, and I live at 2850 Courtney Creek Boulevard. I'm employed as a social worker at R.J. Blackley Alcohol and Drug Treatment Center, and this Saturday, I'll be graduating with my MSW from North Carolina Central University. Tonight, I'm here to speak on behalf of my professor, advisor, and mentor, Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman. As a student and an individual in long-term recovery from substance use disorder, I humbly implore the council to select Dr. Hyman to fill the at-large city council seat. When I began my MSW journey in 2020, I was overcome with gratitude and trepidation. Since first entering recovery in 2015, I'd had difficulty getting back into school due to the criminal charges I obtained in active addiction. I was full of shame and guilt and had lost, in large part, the ability to believe in myself. Broken and afraid, I was fortunate enough to take one of Dr. Hyman's courses my first semester. She immediately began to pour hope and life back into me. When I was nominated to serve as the president of the Graduate Student Association, she stood beside me as our student advisor and helped us to carry the organization to new heights. She empowered me to use my experiences to help others. She helped the GSA obtain a wide array of speakers to collaborate with students, brainstorm community needs, and strive towards solutions. Some of these speakers included Satana DeBerry, the District Attorney of Durham County, Patrice Andrews and Jason Armstrong, the local police chiefs of Durham and Apex, Victor Armstrong, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Chief Health Equity Officer, and Clarence Burkhead, the Durham County Sheriff. Dr. Hyman leads by example. Last fall, she was nominated by students for the Lead Future Change Champion Award by HBCU Grow. She was the clear winner of this competitive national event, where her excellence in teaching was praised across a wide range of colleges and universities in the U.S. She understands the needs of marginalized populations and is adept at collaborating with community stakeholders to develop resources for those in need. She's a visionary with a heart of service and a servant leader whose passion is to guide others toward achieving their goals. She believes in the future of this city and sees its youth as those who hold the key to its success. As Franklin Roosevelt once said, we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. I humbly ask that you invest in the future of this city by selecting Dr. Hyman, who has invested her life and career to the betterment of its youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Alexine Miller. And y'all don't have to stand up. If you want to sit down and wait till your name is called, it's fine. Or if you want to stand up, that's cool too. Okay, great.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor O'Neill and council members. My name is Alexine Miller, and I was born and raised in Durham, but moved to New York City after finishing school here. And this is where I met Monique Holsey-Hyman. In 1986, when she finished school, I was her first supervisor on her first job as a caseworker with the Bureau of Child Welfare. She investigated allegations of suspected neglect and abuse of children. And in order to do this and complete her investigations, she had to interview the child, the families, different agencies with which the family was involved, and she interacted with many professionals and consultants known to the field. Monique was very professional. She had a good work ethic, worked well with her families, and advocated for them to get services needed. And she also worked well with her coworkers. At times, her caseload was overwhelming, but she was very organized and able to manage. After her time as a caseworker, she earned her master's in social work and went on to become a director of a mental health agency in New York and also a social service agency there. I returned to Durham in 1995, and Monique and her family moved here in 2006. She first taught at Shaw University and is presently at NCCU. She has been a mentor to many of her students, and she's very passionate about the things she believes in and in trying to help others. I think Monique Holsey-Hyman would be an asset to the City Council and to the City of Durham. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Charles Mitchell.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. I am Charles Ion Mitchell, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman. I've had the pleasure of serving with Dr. Holsey-Hyman on the DSS board, where she is the vice chair. Dr. Holsey-Hyman has worked tirelessly to ensure that the most marginalized citizens of Durham receive fair and equitable treatment. I first met Monique while on faculty at NCCU, and as time passed, our professional relationship has flourished. At NCCU, she is constantly advocating for young people. She has received numerous awards for this work and always puts the pulse of those young people at the forefront. As you have read and heard from the former speakers, Monique embodies the qualities of a great leader. Her track record speaks for herself as she navigates her life of service. Serving with the Durham City Council alongside you all will be what's best for the citizens of Durham. While on the DSS board, Monique has assisted in the search and hiring of the current director, whom has transformed the agency. Her understanding of budgeting and making recommendations regarding the allocation of funds for the citizens of Durham prepares her for this role. Her commitment to those same citizens, her passion and humanistic approach, her zeal for service places her at the forefront for the at-large council position. Additionally, Monique has inspired me to continue to serve. As I embark upon my 20th year here as a resident of Durham, having Monique represent myself and the citizens at large is key to Durham retaining its place on the national scale. There are great candidates to choose from. I know most of them personally, but I wholeheartedly recommend Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman to join you in fighting for the citizens of Durham. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Lorraine Graves.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and the council members. My name is Lorraine Graves, and I live in 1209 Park Glen Place in Durham. And I also work in Durham at North Carolina Central University as the Master's of Social Work Program Director and Assistant Professor in the Department of Social Work. I have lived and worked in Durham for 14 years, and I would love to have Dr. Hyman, who is a social worker, educator, and advocate, represent my family, my community, and myself on the Durham City Council. I have known Dr. Hyman for approximately 12 years from working with her in higher education. I met Dr. Hyman at a teaching workshop when she was working at Shaw University. We were both participants at the workshop. Dr. Hyman willingly shared a few of her effective teaching methods with the group and offered to share her syllabi and learning activities with us. That spoke volumes to me because she did not know me or some of the others in the workshop, but volunteered her time to support us. This remained consistent through the years. Dr. Hyman does not need to know you to support you and act on your behalf, which is needed in public service. Dr. Hyman is now my colleague in the social work department at NCCU. She is a strong advocate for students within our department. Many of our students are first-generation college students, and she does not shy away from using her voice to advocate for students who experience significant hardships and barriers that may prevent them from remaining and graduating from school. In an effort to retain and support our students, Dr. Hyman developed an alumni mentorship program that will begin in the fall of 2022 that will bring former alums to partner with current alums to support them in their education. Because of her commitment to student success and services, Dr. Hyman has received a number of accolades within the department and university for her innovation and student-centered teaching. And this included her winning her being awarded Teacher of the Year through NCCU, one of the awardees. Dr. Hyman has devoted most of her career to educating and empowering students at historically Black colleges and universities, and I believe her experience, passion, and skills to serve others will be valuable to this council and the city of Durham. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Samantha Renaud Caraballo. Sorry. You're looking at me like you really messed that one up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Samantha Renaud Caraballo, and I reside at 2920 Chapel Hill Road. I am a single mother who moved to Durham in March of 2021 from Brooklyn, New York. The reason for this move was for a better life for my son and I, while I pursued my MSW in the Advanced Standing Program at NCCU. And I also will be graduating on Saturday. So. Dr. Hyman was one of the few professors that I connected with, as she's a fellow New Yorker. But there was just something extra special about Dr. Monique Hyman of Durham by way of the Bronx. I felt her need to help, not just me, but all of my cohorts. Dr. Hyman helped me in linking to services in Durham County and empowered me to finish my degree while making Durham my new home. Based on her networking and connections, she linked her students too. I am a firm believer in meeting people for a reason or a season. I found both. Dr. Hyman is my reason for persevering through my season at NCCU. I recommend that you give Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman the opportunity to make informed decisions as a city council member for the betterment of all Durham residents. This is what she does, without the title and without thinking twice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker will be Carolyn Wiley.
Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem, and Councilman, it's so exciting to be here in front of you. Thank you. This is my first time in front of the City Council. I've lived in Durham for 25 years, since 1998. Again, my name is Carolyn Wiley, and I currently work at the United Way of the Greater Triangle, where I'm proud to serve all of our Triangle residents. This is how I came to know Dr. Hyman. I had the privilege of working closely with her as we both graduated from the 2022 Leadership Triangle Regional Program. Now, I haven't known her very long, but she quickly made her way into my heart, as she does just about everyone she meets. In our time together, I was struck by Dr. Hyman's wisdom, heartfelt concern for the welfare of others, and deep love of the city of Durham. She is a passionate teacher, an active listener, and has a wonderful sense of humor. Most importantly, she has a desire to serve and seeks this at-large position at the City Council for no other reason than her wish to see the city become the best that it can be. Within the first day of meeting her, I could see how people are made better by their interactions with Dr. Hyman. I can only imagine how much better our city will be with her in this role. With her expertise and experience in the fields of education, social work, as well as her proven track record of service on the DSS board, I could think of no better person to serve as an at-large member of the Durham City Council. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming to speak.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Dion Moore.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and esteemed City Council members. My name is Dion Moore. I'm the Director of...
Sorry, Ms. Moore, would you mind moving a little closer to the microphone? Yeah, thank you.
Sure. My name is Dion Moore. I am the Director of Field Education in the Social Work Department at North Carolina Central University. I've been a resident of Durham since 1998, and I reside at 11 Serenity Court. I'm here this evening to share just a few pieces of information with you regarding City Council candidate, my colleague and friend, Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman. In a professional capacity, I've known Dr. Holsey-Hyman since 2016, when she began her employment in the Department of Social Work at North Carolina Central University. Since that time, Dr. Holman has cultivated a strong sense of community and unity within our department for both our students and faculty. She has nurtured, developed, and strengthened community partnerships on behalf of the Department of Social Work and with respect to our social work internship program. Here are a few of her departmental contributions. During her time as a DSS board member, Dr. Holsey-Hyman restored the internship relationship between Durham County DSS and North Carolina Central University's Department of Social Work. She's also volunteered several years of unpaid service to our department by providing weekly social work supervision to all of our social work students in need. Last but not least, she has spearheaded various departmental committees and organized our now annual Leadership Symposium, which features city, county, and state and national leaders. On a personal note, Dr. Holsey-Hyman, Monique, is my friend, and she's my soror. Knowing her has given me endless opportunities to know Monique on a personal level. As my friend and soror, I know just how dedicated, committed, competent, and ethical Monique is. Monique is a tireless advocate and servant. She is actively engaged, concerned, and invested as a Durham citizen. In close, I hope that Dr. Holsey-Hyman's abilities, strengths, and attributes make her well-suited for the responsibilities and challenges of as a city council member. Thank you for your consideration and time.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Vega Swepson.
Again, my name is Vega Swepson. I reside at 1000 Fargo Street here in Durham, North Carolina. Great evening, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, City Council members, City of Durham employees, City of Durham residents. I must say, my fellow residents, this is an exciting yet challenging time here in the City of Durham. All of us in this space are invested in the success of our city. To that end, I want to bring your attention to Dr. Holsey-Hyman. I've had the pleasure of knowing Dr. Hyman for over 16 years now. We met and began our journey years ago as parents when she transitioned here from Brooklyn, New York. We worked as parents at the School of Quality Education Institute, supporting our children, other children, as well as the faculty and staff there. My first impression was, she's a go-getter. A few years later, we began working in the Durham Public School as a member of the site-based team. At that time, it was a volunteer and appointed position for parents and faculty. This platform allowed Dr. Hyman a chance to use her expertise in working in curriculum, school-based improvement goals. This program afforded the students the opportunity to begin being educated in a community of learning. Well, our time did not stop there. We continued to work on several, and we still do, several educational and community ventures. Monique, as I like to refer to her as, has supported Durham residents with obtaining their education, identifying affordable housing, developing skills for workforce development, and she's also a champion for those who are justice-involved individuals. Over the years, I've observed Monique because she's very passionate about helping people. She mentors them, she advocates for them. She helps those folks who sometimes may feel powerless or disenfranchised. Coming from humble beginnings and working for over 25 years in human services, she continues to be of service to Durham residents as they try to navigate through a sometimes difficult and unjust system. I'm still amazed that she continues her passion and her commitment for her family, her friends, and let's not forget her students. It's been a pleasure working with Dr. Holsey-Hyman and benefiting from her considerable knowledge of professional development, being a unique and innovative educator, and lastly, a forward-thinking community change agent. In closing, Holsey-Hyman would be a beneficial addition to Durham City Council as you all continue to work to achieve the goals of the strategic plan for this, our Bull City. Given the opportunity, I'm sure you will share my sentiment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Dr. Valerie Jarvis McMillan.
Good evening. Good evening to Mayor O'Neill, Pro Tem Middleton, distinguished council members, and our residents of Durham that are sitting in our audience. Again, I'm Valerie Jarvis McMillan, and I am a 20-year resident of Durham, North Carolina. It is indeed a pleasure to be here today to support Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman. I'm actually here also in support with my husband, Vaughn McMillan. We actually live at 6519 Loganberry Drive here in Durham, North Carolina. If that address or that street sounds familiar to you, that is the same street that Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman and her family lives on. We're neighbors, we're friends. So what I would like to do is give you an up close and personal insight on the characteristics, unique characteristics of Dr. Monique that I like to call her. So Dr. Monique is definitely someone who is insightful, she's passionate, she's compassionate, she is purpose-driven, she is an advocate, as well as someone who has a strong and clear narrative for any issue, concern, or care that is for the benefit of children, families, youth, individuals, communities within Durham, and as you heard, at North Carolina Central with her students. I do like to say that if given the opportunity for Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman to serve on the City Council with the at-large seat of the City Council, it will be the best decision ever. Why? Because she will definitely be someone who will be a voice for those that have been unheard for issues at the table. She will also be someone who will be their face for the issues that they care about deeply. She'll be an agent of change in areas such as education, mental health, affordable housing, and something that's dear to her heart, and that's social services. Actually, she will be very unapologetically someone who will advocate for what she truly believes that will benefit the citizens of Durham, North Carolina. And that will include children, youth, families, the elderly, and others that are from diverse populations in Durham. She is someone that will advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice. Those are important components, particularly now in our nation, as well as in Durham, North Carolina. So if given the opportunity to serve on the City Council seat for the at-large membership, you will be with someone who is a leader, but she's also a servant. So if you put the two of those together, she will be a leader servant. That is Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next and final speaker will be Craig Hyman.
I have my little shadow here with me. Come on. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Craig Hyman. I'm a probation officer here in Durham, North Carolina, and have been for the last 15 years. It's a pleasure being in front of you on this stage instead of other stages that I have seen. I am the husband to Monique Hyman. Yesterday, you guys were able to see what I've been able to witness for the past 27 years, and that is Monique's energy and passion for everyone that she comes into contact with. I first witnessed her passion when we both worked for child welfare in New York in the 90s, where she was such a go-getter and worked so hard for her clients. Over the years, her passion and energy has gone from child protective, family services, healthcare, mental health, and now education. She continues to put the consumer or her students first. As a mother to two young ladies, She has set the foundation on putting God, family, and education in their lives. She even convinced both of them to follow in her footsteps to be an AKA. As for me, I've had the good fortune of being married to this extraordinary woman for the past 27 years. She has really made Durham her home and represented herself very well in the community, from boards to community organizations, educator, and someone that really cares about Durham and the future of this city. Finally, I got a chance to see and witness my wife's passion and advocacy work. My mother, who passed away on March 10th, was a huge fan of my wife. She became hospitalized on January 3rd and remained in there to her death. Me, as the only child and one that is really laid back and was completely overwhelmed throughout the process. At times, I was unable to communicate to the doctors and social workers. But Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman stepped up and became my rock. When they was ready to send my mother to a hospice facility 50 miles away from Durham, I thought she was going to blow a gasket. And that's just being friendly. She was able to get my mother to a comfortable resting place here in Durham, and I was able to spend quality time with my mother in her last days without worrying about her being transferred somewhere out of town. Madison, Morgan, and I recommend Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman for the open city council position. The city of Durham really could use a passionate advocate like her. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That concludes our speakers for Dr. Monique Holsey-Hyman. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us tonight. We are going to move on to our speakers for Dr. Henry McKoy. And our first speaker for Dr. McKoy will be William Jackson.
Good evening, everybody. My name is William Jackson. Good evening to the City Council and the Mayor. Appreciate y'all for allowing us this time to speak on behalf of candidates we're interested in. When Dr. McKoy asked me to come and speak on his behalf, I was pretty excited to do so. And that's because I've known Dr. McKoy for about 8 years now. I've lived in Durham for about 11, so for most of the time that I've been here, I've known him. And there's three things that I would like to kind of point out about his leadership that I think would be essential to the City Council. One, imagination. Dr. McKoy is one of the most, I would say, grounded, imaginative minds that I've met in terms of having ways to actually accomplish things due to like the institutional kind of blocks that might be in the way, and thinking of creative ways to get around those things. Knowing that a lot of the institutional policies that have been put in place in this country actually kind of work against Black and brown folks, I think that that's a really essential skill for anybody that's going to be sitting on City Council. I'm also really impressed by Dr. McKoy's equity lens. Every time I talk to him about community development or education or any of these issues that impact our community, he frequently kind of thinks about the ways to center those who are most directly impacted in building their wealth, building their power, and building their access to decision making. And so to me, that's somebody who really understands how equity works and those folks who need to be most involved in those decisions. And then finally, when I think about Dr. McKoy, it goes back to the whole institutional processes. So we recently have had a lot of conversations about how different policies and laws impact and limit and constrain what can be done on behalf of our communities. And so I've always found my conversations with him very informative. And then the last thing I'll just say, so that I can go ahead and get out of the way here, as somebody who does a lot of education work and works with a lot of nonprofits in the city, he is committed to working with folks and not recreating the wheel. So Dr. McKoy is often kind of opening up his arms and inviting a lot of people in, as opposed to kind of selecting his favorites. And so I appreciate that about him, because I think that that's we need everybody on the same page. And so I'm really looking forward, hopefully, to Dr. McKoy having a city council seat. Thank y'all so much for the time.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Hilda Smith, who will be joining us virtually.
Greetings to the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, and other attendees. My name is Hilda Smith. I am a licensed clinical addiction specialist within the state of North Carolina. I have lived many decades in the city of Durham. I have had the honor, pleasure, and opportunity to work with Dr. Henry McKoy on economic development projects in diverse communities, the goal of which is to reduce some of the barriers that residents feel continue to plague their neighborhoods. Dr. McKoy personally visits these neighborhoods, speaks to residents, and listens to what they feel are priority needs to enhance their communities. He is very hands-on in communicating with residents of disadvantaged and underserved communities. He is a staunch advocate for how economic development can bring about shared prosperity, where all populations in the city of Durham will be able to reap benefits. For these reasons and more, I'm advocating that Dr. Henry McKoy fill the at-large city council seat. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Faye Calhoun.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill and City Council members and Durham residents. I'm Dr. Faye Calhoun. I'm a member of the Durham Historic Preservation Commission, Preservation Durham, a homeowner on the Fayetteville Street corridor, and I work part-time as Special Assistant to the Chancellor of North Carolina Central University for partnerships and cooperative agreements. I highly recommend the choice of Dr. Henry McKoy for this seat on the City Council for several reasons. First of all, he's a proven leader. He embodies what should be one of the themes for Durham, and that is the concept of a NCCU Durham communiversity as a partnership between a community and a university. A close intertwined partnership. A partnership means that if you have a problem, I have a problem. I will help you with my resources and you will help me. Together we can solve these problems through policies, programs, and professional studies. NCCU and Dr. McKoy are underutilized resources in this community. He can build that communiversity. He can make it a reality, not just with NCCU, but he's built partnerships with other thought leaders at the other universities in this area, and not just the four-year universities and the graduate programs, but also the community colleges. He's built partnerships with every last one of them. Dr. McKoy is a thought leader at NCCU. He's a professor of entrepreneurship and economic development. He was a member of the Board of Visitors for the business school, which means he's recognized by his peers across the country. He's an outstanding teacher. He's a breath of fresh air. I was so glad to see him. I didn't know what to do when he showed up at Central. He's a sought-after lecturer at Duke and other universities, as well as for-profit and nonprofit organizations in this era. All right. He founded and directed the North Carolina Central Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Research Clinic and Lab, which supports NCCU students in working with cities around the United States. and working with them on economic development, individual cities. And beyond college kids, I said a lot about how he works with the universities, but beyond college kids, since 2016, he served as lead instructor for the Summer Youth Business and Entrepreneurship Academy hosted by NCCU, working with those young kids and getting them interested in entrepreneurship. And he has worked with a community organization to build a pipeline for young men and women to enter the trades and be licensed to work in our community in partnership with a community college. That's what we need now. Not just convince people they should go to college and for 4 years get debt and then try to find a job, but work with the students to understand that there's another way also, and that way is with the trades. And it is so difficult to find, particularly the African Americans working in the trades, and he's for that, and I've worked with him on that. Okay. He is the managing director for the Eagle Angel Network that's partnering with other universities and businesses to raise the money to invest in early stage development of community businesses and in Durham. In addition, since 2020, he has raised over $2 million in funds for partnership initiatives between NCCU and the surrounding communities. Okay, you got to be a leader to do that. You got to know what you're doing to write those grants, get them, and work with the community to use the money. Okay, his family has been here all of his life. He knows Durham. He loves Durham. He's been living in Durham at least 30 years. He knows he's partnered with and worked with people in Durham East as well as Durham West. He was educated right in this area with degrees from UNC and Duke. And he is a proven leader for regional planning and his master's in environmental management. Dr. McKoy is an unquestionable solid citizen and a dedicated family man. He's got a beautiful family. If ever there was a time to add him to this unique and special group of leaders, my city council. This council comprises the best of what Durham can be. If there was ever a time to add him to this group, it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be LaShawn Banks.
Hello, Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, and council members. I'm LaShawn Banks. I might be too close to the microphone. I've worked together with Henry across the state of North Carolina on inclusive economic development, but right now I want to focus on our most recent work together. I am the Director for Equity and Inclusion at the Ash Center and Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative at Harvard Kennedy School. My role at the Ash Center was to manage a program where we actually worked with over 45 cities in the country each year to create better economic mobility for the communities. These cities ranged in size and unique challenges, but a lot of them were very similar to Durham in population and race. I quickly brought in Dr. McKoy as the first ever Senior Municipal Innovation Fellow, and I knew I needed his expertise in inclusive growth. Our first few months, we published an equity report that was used by over 20 cities in making decisions in programming and allocating resources to create a more connected and equitable community. My role transitioned to work with the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative, where I was able to publish the first ever City Leader Guide for Equitable Economic Development that's currently being used by our 160 mayor cohort for the program. I did not publish this guide without Dr. McKoy. So we like to joke that we pretty much wrote a book on inclusive economic development. This guide was one of only 4 equity resources that was adopted by the Biden administration in March of this year as a recommendation from the Office of Management and Budget. I recently became an adjunct professor at Harvard teaching a class on racial equity and economic development, the first that they ever had. And who was my first guest lecturer? It was Dr. McKoy. And I knew that I needed to focus on his work that he does here in Durham, and that the world needed to see that and be educated on how we can replicate that. It's become clear that his expertise and skill set are translatable for cities across the country and beyond. I grew up in Raleigh, and I grew up in the time where my parents said not to go to Durham in the 80s and 90s, and so I've watched Durham change from afar. But my husband and I live here, our 2 young children go to school here, even though I work at Harvard. And I work with marginalized communities all across the country, and being marginalized myself because of my skin color or my family's income previously, change is something that sometimes we feel happens to us and that we're not a part of. And I've seen Dr. McKoy work with communities where he's given them a voice and actually shown them that they're a part of change. I think he would be an excellent addition to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Vicki Miller. Sorry, you can go next if you want. Okay, Vicki Miller.
Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, council members. My name is Vicki Miller, and I'm a resident in Durham, and it is my profound honor to bring brief remarks on behalf of Dr. Henry McKoy. Thank you for this opportunity to do so. I first met Dr. McKoy in 2010. I was the Assistant Director for Housing and Community Development with the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Dr. McKoy was the Assistant Secretary for Community Development with responsibilities to oversee operations and programs for the Community Development Block Grant Program, or CDBG, for the state. The impacts of the Great Recession were being felt all across the state, and as Assistant Secretary, Dr. McKoy led recovery efforts with $60 million to address housing foreclosures and other stimulus-directed activities, and an annual CDBG appropriation of $45 million, $200 million of additional portfolio of grant and loan funds active in communities across the state. Dr. McKoy's experience in banking and finance was pivotal with this funding. Some of the proposed projects from local governments involved complex financial structuring, and it was very helpful to have Dr. McKoy's experience to help evaluate feasibility and appropriate return on investment as required in the CDBG regulations. Moreover, Dr. McKoy connects with people and is a service-first type of leader. He is authentically interested in giving back and making better. For his staff, he created an inclusive work culture and had an open-door policy with local government leaders. Dr. McKoy invests in relationships. He understands that to have thriving communities, you need people and relationships to make that happen. I'll end with this. There is an adage that goes, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. In addition to serving as a model for personal development relationships, this quote is appropriate as it relates to municipal governance. As you know well, as the elected body, you are the head of city government and have exclusive authority to act on behalf of the citizens of Durham. Although you come to this body through your own standing for election, you are charged with and held accountable for governing as one. The selection you make to fill the vacant seat can impact this board's ability to govern as one in a way that further uplifts and calls forth the best for the city of Durham. If you select Dr. Henry McKoy, as I ask that you do, based on his skills, abilities, experience, and concern for this community, he will help the board achieve just that. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker will be Keith Daniel.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill, City Council members, and our fellow Durham residents. I am Reverend Dr. Keith Daniel, the co-founder and managing director of Resilient Ventures. I have served as the executive director of Durham Cares and Step Up North Carolina. Since 2005, Henry has enthusiastically accepted numerous invitations from me to contribute his vast knowledge and expertise to students and servant leaders I have directed or taught, including inspiring the Duke Lead Scholars at the Fuqua School of Business, supporting undergraduates in my Duke Public Policy course, serving on the board of Durham Cares, and as an advisor to our venture fund, investing in Black-led companies. This year, I, along with clergy and community members, are facilitating the End Poverty Durham Collective. Henry has contributed mightily to the End Poverty Durham deliberations and actions, including the raising of $125,000 to support Durham businesses adversely affected by the COVID pandemic and unable to access federal relief dollars. You can read more about that and find more information about the Thrive Community Fund by visiting the Communities in Partnership website, a community-rooted organization based in Old East Durham. Henry and I are both former student athletes. He at the Blue Sky School down the road and me at the Blue Ocean School here in Durham. We know what it means to leave it all on the field and to battle for others. And I never thought I would publicly admire a Carolina alum, but here I am tonight, filled with admiration and joy to commend him to the at-large city council seat. Henry, Dr. McKoy he not only talks the talk, but he has walked to walk, as has been shared earlier. He is for shared prosperity. He is unequivocally dedicated and passionate about addressing issues of poverty and low-income communities. His commitment to Durham is deeply rooted and unrelenting, even while he has traveled the country, educating, mobilizing, and supporting indigenous leaders to take up their own interest and lead us forward. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Tom Droga.
Good evening. My name's Tom Drogi. My wife and I came to Durham in '82. She's a graduate of NC Central, and we started business here in Durham in '85. I'm one of the many entrepreneurs that built the entrepreneurial system here in Durham back in the '80s. Keith Daniel and I run a fund, Resilient Ventures, that invests in African-American founders, and that's how I met Dr. Henry McKoy. So I have seen what it takes to build an ecosystem. Durham's consistently ranked in the top 10 for Black entrepreneurship. We need the passion of people like Dr. Henry McKoy, who works to provide access to capital to underrepresented entrepreneurs. His business experience, service, and awards are comprehensive. He is a leading expert on African-American entrepreneurship nationally. Personally, his work on the history of Haiti was one of the many insights that formed the thesis for Resilient Ventures. He served on presidential councils, speaks to Congress, advises other large cities on Black entrepreneurship. He is one of Durham's most influential voices on the national landscape with respect to finance, investments, small businesses as a whole, minority businesses in particular, and Black businesses specifically. Given his time commitments, we are glad he serves on the board of Resilient Ventures. He's an active board member, providing wisdom and insight. Without his early involvement and support, we would not be as far along as we are today. Reed Frankel, another local serial entrepreneur, has asked me to read this for you also. Reed's on the board of Helios, a local nonprofit that provides training and mentoring for necessity-driven entrepreneurs. Dr. McKoy has also always been supportive for Helios. His support's been instrumental in proving our value to the community and has led to increased exposure and growth of Helios, which is on its way to providing training and mentoring for thousands of necessity-driven entrepreneurs in Durham. Reed and I would both give Dr. McKoy our highest recommendation to fill this seat on the Durham City Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Matt Kopak.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill and members of the council. My name is Matt Kopak, and I live at 1510 Woodland Drive here in Durham. I rise this evening to speak on behalf of Dr. Henry McKoy. Henry's been a friend and collaborator for over a decade. Most recently, we served together on the board of the Durham Living Wage Project to advocate for workers in Durham, and we forged a partnership between Burt's Bees and Clorox and North Carolina Central University to support Black entrepreneurial ventures in Durham and mentor undergrads at the university. He is someone who has inspired and challenged me throughout the course of our relationship. I appreciate that Henry has great vision, but he's also able to really get down to brass tacks. He'll tell you how an idea could and should be bigger and better, and he'll work with you within current constraints to pursue the art of the possible. Some examples. Henry is a frequent speaker on the need for national reparations, while also working directly with communities across the country on localized practical solutions to bridge the racial wealth gap today. Henry believes in ambitious national climate action, while also understanding specific local ways to make communities healthier, safer, and more prosperous through environmental planning and economic development. Henry believes in economic development, but not in the absolute. He puts it within the overarching framework of how we can pursue greater equity for our community. His work in business, environmental policy, and through his PhD in city and regional planning, all of it comes down to equity for Henry. He understands many levers we have to pull, how to reach across issues and sectors and levels of government to pull it together to find practical ways to improve people's lives. Henry has a deep well of passion, he listens, and he has a fierce commitment to serving marginalized communities and working to make real stuff happen to make their lives better. And thanks to his work with cities across the country on issues very similar to those we face in Durham, although he would be a freshman member of the council, he would enter into the seat with a well of experience and wisdom, that of a seasoned veteran. I believe that Henry is someone who can be an ally to all members of this council, just as he is to all members of this community, as he bridges relationships and political difference in this community. Henry has a vision, just as I know you all have a vision, and I'm excited to see what y'all can do together to advance a more equitable, just, and prosperous Durham. And I urge you to select Henry as your new colleague on the Durham City Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Steve Chalmers.
Mayor O'Neill, Mayor Pro Tem Middleton, City Council members, good evening. My name is Steve Chalmers. I'm the former police chief for the city of Durham. I'm here to speak on behalf of Dr. Henry McKoy. As a former law enforcement executive, I've always sought alternatives to addressing crime and criminal behavior other than law enforcement. I found many who understood and agreed that law enforcement was not the sole solution, but only a few who moved beyond agreeing to actually plan, develop, and implement those alternatives. Henry McKoy is one who has demonstrated the agreement and understanding through action. Henry understands that in order to reach the root of the problems that we face, it requires systemic change. It requires narrowing the racial wealth gap and sharing prosperity. It requires providing decent and affordable housing without gentrification. It requires jobs with family-sustaining salaries for our marginalized residents. To these ends, Henry has helped to coordinate and provide resources that have supported gatherings, conversations, summits, and individuals that are trying to escape gang life and associated activities. As a result of these activities, the Justice Movement was created, which is a one-stop shop with wraparound services for predominantly Black individuals who are justice involved. Henry has established a partnership with over 50 Fortune 500 companies and leading employers who have already committed to providing thousands of family-sustaining salary jobs for Black talent with less than 4-year degrees in the Raleigh-Durham area. Henry has also developed a revitalization plan to reinvest in community and address gentrification. Henry has developed a national and local reputation for being a forward-thinking scholar and leader who produces results-based initiatives that are providing tremendous impact and results in Durham and nationally. The one thing that I say to you this evening is that Dr. Henry McKoy is already working for Durham. We can only imagine the unlimited potential and what can be accomplished for Durham if Henry's knowledge, energy, reputation, and successes are integrated with that of our existing city council members. I highly recommend Dr. Henry McKoy for the at-large Durham City Council position. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Our final speaker will be Lorena Patterson.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill and City Council members and Durham residents. My name is Lorena Patterson. I'm the President and CEO of Connecta, a culture and equity training firm. I was born and raised in Mexico. I came to the United States 25 years ago and to North Carolina 20 years ago. I'm also the president of the Global Mexican Professionals Abroad, that is part of the Ministry of Foreign Relations. I serve on the board of the Latino Credit Union, and I'm the former program director of a initiative called the Latino Initiative, that it was part of the UNC system, and that's where I met Dr. McKoy. The reason why I invited Dr. McKoy to our economic development leadership program to Mexico was because after I met him, I understood that he is a bridge builder, and that's what I was looking for. I also saw that he has a deep understanding and knowledge on inclusive economic development with equitable prosperity. That was something very important to me in my program, and to bridge the two cultures, the Latino culture, the Black culture, and all the cultures. But what drove me to want to collaborate further with him is his passion for to be a unifier of all communities, not just one, with his entrepreneurship, vision. And what I like the most is that he has this global vision to connect globally and bring it locally, so that we can have a leader that can bring the necessary balance to Durham with this expertise and have sustainable economic development for the future. Because at the end, in the future, it's not only going to be about Black and brown communities, but all communities that have access to technology, to a vision with innovation, somebody that knows or is willing to have cultural proficiency, know about other cultures, has the knowledge on finance that he has. He knows about the government. He loves Durham. He's from here. He's seeking globally, bringing it locally with innovation. He can bring disruption, but positive disruption and change, especially the path for these two communities that seem to be wanting to work together, but they don't know who can bring them together, which is the Latino community and the Black community, especially in Durham. But I highly recommend Dr. McKoy because I think he will be a bridge builder for all communities in Durham. I hope you see the value on having him on this council and thinking for the future of Durham in a more global way and a more with a vision, and not just only local, but long-term with all his expertise. Thank you, and good evening.
Thank you so much. That concludes our speakers in support of applicant Dr. Henry McKoy. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. Especially want to thank our applicants for their willingness to serve our community and for participating in this process. We all know that it's not easy. It takes a lot of work, a lot of passion, a lot of care for the community. And so just want to thank everyone who is applying for this position for their willingness to serve. And again, thank you to all of our residents who came out tonight to support our applicants. I believe we've concluded our business for the evening. I'm going to pass it off to the mayor for any comments or to adjourn.
I would just echo the comments from my colleague in thanking you all and those who are on virtually with us. I especially want to thank our Mayor Pro Tem and Councilwoman Johnson for leading us through this process. And we will now adjourn at 7:59 on May 3rd. We'll see this strong.